The landmark Inflation Reduction Act, or IRA, has helped breathe new life into a struggling Biden administration. Now, despite its name, it's not going to reduce inflation. Senate Democrats knew that well when they named the bill. They also knew how bad it would make Republicans or Joe Manchin look to vote against a bill nominally aimed at reducing inflation. Maybe the stealing candy from a baby reduction act was a little too on the nose. The new bill, however, does address climate change, and does that by curbing the two greatest sources of greenhouse gas emissions: transportation and electricity generation. Of roughly $400 billion in total spending, $370 billion of that, so over 90%, will go towards climate initiatives. Experts project that by the end of the decade, the bill will reduce U.S. greenhouse gas emissions to 40% below 2005 levels, and that would put the United States about 10% closer to reaching the goal established in the Paris Climate Accord. The bill gets there by offering the private sector carrots rather than sticks. In fact, it's actually structured more like industrial policy than an environmental bill. For example, creating a national green bank of private funding for clean energy projects, including in poorer communities. The bill also provides $3.2 billion in tax credits for carbon capture initiatives, which incentivize oil, coal, and industrial sites to capture carbon emissions before they enter the atmosphere and store them underground. The process can be complex and costly, which is why many fossil fuel companies have so far avoided implementing it. But experts project that it could account for as much as a fifth of the emission cuts that are outlined in the IRA. The bill also provides funding for a simpler way to remove carbon from the atmosphere: planting trees. And it includes $20 billion for, quote, climate-smart agriculture that will enable farmers to store more carbon in their soil and their plants. The IRA's most interesting innovation may well be its response to a recent U.S. Supreme Court decision that curtailed the Environmental Protection Agency's regulatory authority. As part of a June ruling, the court determined that Congress must explicitly direct future regulatory action, including by the EPA. So the drafters of the bill in Congress amended the language in the Clean Air Act to specifically include CO2 produced by burning fossil fuels, and in so doing, they reaffirmed the EPA's mandate to issue greenhouse gas regulations, which the court had effectively weakened. On the day the bill passed, Senate Republicans waged a pre-dawn campaign to remove that language, but were unsuccessful. There's more to the bill that I don't have time to get into right now. Significant tax breaks to both companies and individuals that implement climate-friendly processes or move battery and critical mineral or clean energy manufacturing back to the United States. There's also plenty that's not in the bill, to the chagrin of climate advocates, like cracking down on industrial meat production. But my biggest takeaway, aside from the big price tag, is the bill's recognition that companies can't just cooperate in a government push to combat climate change. The private sector has to lead the way, with a few $100 billion worth of nudges from Uncle Sam.